MegaPodTastic. Good morning, MegaPodlings. It's Krazy Joe. I do apologize. I don't have any theater footage for you. I did not shoot anything at the movie theater. But I went down to my local movie theater the other night, Thursday, November 11th, to check out the Fathom Events screening of the new recut, director's cut of Rocky IV, which is titled Rocky IV, Rocky vs. Drago, the Ultimate Director's Cut. Very long title. So I felt I needed to see this. I'm a big fan of the Rocky franchise. As you know, I do live in the Philadelphia area, so Rocky is of local interest. Rocky's statue still sits at the bottom of the art museum. I pass it occasionally when I'm in the city. And I have a great love, and some of it's nostalgia, but they're great. The movies hold up. They're great movies. They really, really hold up when you watch those, all 6 Rocky movies. I have to say Rocky IV has always been my least favorite. Of the original 6 Rocky movies, not including Creed and Creed II, the original 6 Rocky movies, Rocky IV has always been my least favorite. Now, that said, it's very entertaining. I enjoy the film. I watch the film. I find it very, very enjoyable. But I just think of the 6, it's the one that is the most lacking of something more meaningful. The first movie is a great underdog story. The second movie is still very grounded in reality. The first 2 are very grounded in reality, but the second one's still grounded in reality, but it kind of just gives you the second part of the story. It's like, okay, well, he didn't win. He went the distance, but he didn't win. But you really wanted to see him win. So we get the rematch. He gets his other shot, and he finally gets to win. By the time we get to Rocky III, it does start to get a little more cartoony. We have him taking on Hulk Hogan in a boxer versus wrestler charity event. It definitely starts to take a turn from the more grounded reality of the first 2 to something a little bit more cartoonish, if you will. It works. I mean, it's still good. I don't think Rocky III is as good as 1 and 2. And I'm a guy who loves Mr. T. Everybody who knows me knows I have a Mr. T collection. So on that level, yeah, I love Rocky III. It introduced the world to Mr. T. But if we're being honest and just comparing it to the first 2, it's a different kind of film. Those are very grounded in reality, and suddenly it just does start to get a little cartoonier. Then we get to Rocky IV, and we're full on cartoon. We've got some ridiculous political statements. I mean, Rocky essentially ends the Cold War. He gives us ridiculous speech. The Russian government gets up and gives him a standing ovation. I mean, there's no reality in this movie whatsoever. It's fun to watch. Don't get me wrong. I like it. I enjoy it. But it's also dumb. And people always give a hard time to Rocky V and say, oh, Rocky V, that's the worst one. And I'm always like, you know what? No, I'm going to say Rocky V is better than Rocky IV. Because Rocky V, I can see it doesn't work. It doesn't completely work. But I can see what Stallone is attempting to do here. He's attempting to take this series that was grounded in a reality and then kind of got into this weird hyper fantasy in the last 2. And he's trying to bring it back. He's trying to bring it back to what it originally was. Doesn't always work, but it's a noble attempt. So that's why I appreciate Rocky V a little more than Rocky IV. But that said, I'm telling you here, Rocky IV has always been my least favorite, but I still love it. I still enjoy it. We're talking about it's my least favorite out of 6 movies that I love. Okay? So there you go. What do I think of this director's cut? Well, first of all, let's talk about the changes to the director's cut. One thing that has gotten the most publicity is Stallone took the robot out. The robot that he gives to Paulie as a birthday gift, gone. Not in this Rocky versus Drago cut of the film at all. And that's been a very controversial change. Other changes, he re-edits the fights. For example, in the theatrical cut, Apollo Creed gets into the ring with Ivan Drago and just takes a beating. He just gets beaten upon. Just plummeted to death. He just gets totally decimated. And Stallone kind of changes the fight. So, obviously the end game is the same. Apollo Creed, spoiler alert for a 36-year-old movie, Apollo Creed does still die in the ring, but he re-edits it so that Apollo gets in some, he lands more punches, and it's a little bit more of an even fight. It's not just Apollo goes in and takes a beating. As I mentioned, at the end of the film, the Russian government gives Rocky a standing ovation. Well, they took that out of the film. That's gone. We see them just kind of get up and leave now without, applauding Rocky. So he tries to take this cartoony film and make it a little bit more realistic. Does it work? I don't think so. I mean, don't get me wrong. This director's cut isn't bad. It's still a pretty good film. But he's trying to take something that is very cartoony and make it more grounded in reality. But the problem is the cartooniness is kind of baked in. It's kind of baked in. I mean, it is a movie about an American athlete in the height of the Cold War who goes to Russia, fights a Russian guy, and wins over the Russian crowd. That would never happen in reality. When they start cheering, Rocky, Rocky, and they're cheering for you now. There's no reality in that happening. And it's still a cartoony film because it's kind of baked in, the cartooniness. And trying to take that and turn it into something more grounded in reality, I don't think fully works. And I'll tell you something else. Every Rocky movie opens with a callback to the previous film. Rocky 2 opens with the fight at the end of Rocky 1. We get to see that fight again. Rocky 3 opens with the fight from Rocky 2 at the beginning. That's just how Rocky movies open. Well, this time around, the flashbacks to Rocky 3 that we get at the beginning of the new Rocky versus Drago cut are much longer than any flashbacks to a previous Rocky film we've ever had before. And I think part of the reason is that he took so much out, like the robot scenes and things like that. I feel like that he was padding out the time a little bit, because he doesn't just open with the fight with Clubber Lang as Rocky IV originally opened, but now we go back to the first fight with Clubber Lang when he lost. And then we go to Apollo coming in and telling him, you lost the eye of the tiger. And then we cut to like him and Apollo training. And then we have the second fight. So it's like we get like almost like a total recap of Rocky 3. Now, I think this is twofold, really. I think there's two reasons for this. Number one, I do think he's padding out the time, because he took so much out of the film. I think he's padding out the time so the film's not too short. But I also think he's trying to bring more of the friendship of Apollo Creed, a flashback to their friendship, to give Apollo's death more emotional weight. That's what I think. I don't know. It feels like we've never had this much in a Rocky movie of a flashback to the previous Rocky movie. It's about 15 minutes, I think, if you took out the timer, which I didn't. But I do think you're looking at about 15 minutes of flashback to Rocky 3. We never had that much before. So what do I think of Rocky 4, Rocky versus Drago, which I've watched twice, by the way. I saw it in the theater. Like I said, I don't have any theater footage. I apologize. I went with my daughter. I took my daughter, and I don't like to put my kids on camera, so it was just a daddy-daughter night out at the movies, so I didn't break out the camera. Did run into a viewer there. One of my MegaPodTastic viewers was in the audience, a guy named Trevor. Trevor, if you're watching, it was nice meeting you. So I did run into a viewer there, but I didn't record. But I was unsure how I felt about the film, and I ended up buying the digital copy on Vudu. It's now available for sale on wherever you get digital movies, Vudu, iTunes Store, wherever you buy digital movies, you can get this. And I bought it because I'm a bit of a completionist. And even, we're going to get to my thoughts, but regardless of my thoughts, the completionist in me was like, I wanted it. I wanted to own this. So I watched it again the next night at home. And my feeling is it's an interesting experiment. I don't hate this director's cut. It does some interesting things. It fixes some of the issues that are really goofy with the film, like the Russian government giving them a standing ovation. That's just so ridiculous. So in some aspects, it is better. Personally, I do prefer the theatrical cut. I think the original theatrical cut that we've had for 36 years is still going to be my go-to version of Rocky IV. Because, like I said, the film is kind of at its core cartoony. And I don't think you can rejigger it into something that it isn't. And it's not a more dramatic, grounded film like Rocky 1 and 2. And it's never going to be that, no matter how much you try to tinker with it. So I applaud Stallone for his effort. I also watched some of the behind-the-scenes documentary. Stallone is very, very, very happy with this version of the film. He does feel it's far superior to the original. So this is the director's preferred cut. And, a lot of us gave George Lucas a hard time like 20 years ago when he started doing alterations to the Star Wars trilogy. But unlike George Lucas, Sylvester Stallone and MGM have not taken the original cut of Rocky IV away from us. The original cut of Rocky IV remains. So this is just an alternate cut. It's like the Snyder cut of Justice League. I did a video on here, one of my most popular videos, most watched. I pissed a lot of people off. But I'm always going to speak my mind. I'm never going to tailor my message to what I think people want to hear. I'm always going to give you my honest opinion. I hated the Snyder Cut. But one thing I said on my Snyder Cut video was, I'm glad it exists because it's an alternate cut of the film. You've got the Joss Whedon cut. You've got the Zack Snyder cut. They're both out there. You can pick and choose. Watch the one you prefer. And you've got them both. And it's the same thing with this. If you want to watch this new version of Rocky IV, you have this new version of Rocky IV. If you want to watch the original version of Rocky IV, it still exists. So this is just something new being given to the fans as another possibility, another choice. Just like I have 3 different versions of Superman the movie on the shelf. I got the theatrical cut, I've got the director's cut, and I've got the 3-hour-long ABC TV cut. Take your pick, which one you want to watch. And it's a pretty cool thing when you have a choice like that. So my version is always going to be the theatrical cut, but I do own this new Rocky versus Drago cut, and I may revisit it again. It's an interesting experiment, and it's also... There's only 2 Rocky movies that you can get in Ultra HD 4K digitally. None of them are available in Ultra HD 4K on physical media yet. They're just not. But the only 2 Rocky movies that you can get in Ultra HD, not including Creed, are the original Rocky and this new director's cut of Rocky IV. All the other Rocky films, the highest quality you can get is HD. So if you are a 4K fanatic, that may be of interest to you too. That the director's cut of Rocky IV is the only way you can get Rocky IV in Ultra HD. Worth noting. All right, that's all I got for you. Rocky 4, Rocky versus Drago, the ultimate director's cut. It's now available for purchase and rental on digital formats, wherever you get your digital films, iTunes, Vudu. I use Vudu, Google Play, Amazon. You know all the digital retailers. So if you are interested in this, check it out. You can buy it, you can rent it, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. What did you think of Rocky 4, Rocky versus Drago, the ultimate director's cut? Did you like it as much as the theatrical cut? Did you like it more than the theatrical cut? Do you hate both cuts? Yeah, I don't know. Tell me what you think. And hey, everybody, keep wearing those pajamas.
Keep wearing those pajamas with the plastic feet. Keep wearing those pajamas. Tell everyone you meet. Keep wearing those pajamas with the back door flap. Keep wearing those pajamas. Don't open, it's a trap. Oh no, it's a trap. Some people call them PJs, some people call them jammies. They can come embroidered with big money and no whammies. They can have 100 tiny commander pajamas, but no matter how they look, just keep on wearing those pajamas. Keep on wearing those pajamas. Keep wearing those pajamas. And now we're having fun. Keep wearing those pajamas. And now the song is done.